Okay, go ahead. Say it again.
Sam Porter.
Okay.
And I'm Alan Ordry.
Hello, Alan.
For the last few years, I've been their resident blacksmith for the summer anyway. This is the Miller Blacksmith Shop. Miller in 1830s was the only blacksmith here in this community, covered a 10-mile radius. General blacksmithing. That means he is doing 60% of his business as repairs. Anything broken, he's going to fix. Plows to springs to their guns to their coffee mills. 20% shoeing animals, horses and oxen both, and 20% making something new. That is anything from household hardware, hinges, latches, hasps, cooking utensils, lighting devices, hearth equipment, branding irons, nuts, bolts, nails, chain, and anything else you can think of that you're willing to spend money for. Mostly done by getting a piece of iron or steel up to about 2300 degrees and beating it on with a hammer until it looks like what you want, whether it's a pair of pliers like this, or a door handle, or a fine cooking fork like this one.
And what would that be standard used for?
This is a flesh fork. This is the one the lady of the house used for cooking the big roast and the meat and stuff.
Okay.
Sausages, all that good stuff.
Okay. Pretty much everyday standard multi-use.
This one's pretty fancy. A lot of the ones we see that were here were much plainer, simpler, more utilitarian.
Okay. Now, as far as you have I see a lot of tools and equipment along your walls here.
Right.
What is your basic equipment that you use on a daily average workday?
In order to set up a shop and go into business, I've got to have an anvil.
Okay.
I've got to have a forge of some kind. Leg vise like this one here, a hammer, and at least one pair of tongs. After that, I can make everything else I need. If I need a different pair of tongs, I can make them, punches, chisels, all that stuff. Probably a swedge block like this one back here.
And what is a swedge block?
It is basically, this one's a really big one. I'm not going to pick it up. This is a small swedge. It's just for shaping metal in.
Okay.
So you can have bottom ones like this go in the anvil. I can also have a top tool at the same shape, so we can do full round or square or octagonal or whatever shape. The decoration on this was done with a die that we made at the top of this. So it's basically just like a big die. And those are the things you really have to have. I mean, you can make all these at once. Like you've got a sledgehammer and iron and a swedge block to force it into. Those are the essentials. After that, it's all downhill.
And as far as when this area was first established, how important was a blacksmith itself? Would it be one of the first shops built in, or one of the last shops built in as equipment became needed?
Kind of depends on how lucky they are. In this case, Miller is here pretty much about the same time this is getting going. Sometimes they're desperately looking for a blacksmith. They'll even run ads in the papers on the East Coast offering incentives like so many acres of ground if they'll sign a contract and stay for like 7 years. Basically, eventually everybody's not going to be working if there isn't a blacksmith. Your plow's not going to work, your other tools aren't going to work, or whatever.
So
stone dressing tools, he's going to dress all those things, repair them, sharpen the plows.
So basically your blacksmith was part of the actual heart of your communities.
We have been ever since Adam and Eve walked out on the planet, basically. One of Cain's sons was a forger of bronze and iron as well. So you look back and how important working metal is to society. We're making all the better tools and all that stuff. You look at King Arthur's stories. The castle's been built. Arthur invites all the craftsmen to come to the castle and a celebratory dinner and bids them to sit closest to him to furthest away, depending on how much they've had to do with putting the castle together. So I'll sit in the order. Blacksmith's last one in, sits clear at the far end of the table. He's still got his apron on. He's dirty from working in the forge all day. After the first course, the king gets up and he asks, well, I'm the stonemason sire. We cut and dressed all the stones. I'm the carpenter and the tailor and so forth. And he gets to the blacksmith and he says, I just made some of the hinges and the pentles. I didn't do much. Okay. So after the second course, the king's been thinking. He gets up and he asks the stonemason, well, where do you get your tools to dress the stones with? Well, I go to the blacksmith sire. He makes them for me. Woodwork, well, I go to the blacksmith sire. He makes them for me. Tailor, well, the blacksmith makes my needles and my scissors and so forth down the table until he gets to the blacksmith. Of course, the blacksmith's answer is, well, I make my own tools, sire. That's my craft and trade. King looks at him for a minute. He says, you're in the wrong chair. You need to move up the head of the table. And Arthur is reputed to have said, by hammer in hand, all arts do stand, or all crafts, all trades do stand. Because he realizes without the blacksmith, nothing was possible.
Yes.
And England will have that problem come up when the Black Plague comes through. All their blacksmiths die. Not a good time to be a blacksmith. And that's probably from working with the animals so much and the dirt and the hay and all that. You know, higher fleet population. And they has to actually go to the King of France and get people to come over and train their people to be blacksmiths again. Not a good situation to be in.
Not at all. Now,
Very important people.
as far as today's use in modern times, how important is a blacksmith to your standard farmer with equipment as it is now?
Zero, pretty much. I mean, sometimes we'll make hitch pins and stuff if there's one in the neighborhood. Today, I'm not a necessity, I'm a desire.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to make you a pair of custom-made pliers, or I'm going to make you a door handle for your house that's different than everybody else's, or a light, stuff like that. Of course, there's the reenactment communities that are wanting period-looking stuff, things like that, historic sites. But we're still out there. It's just you don't see us too much. There's, I think, 3 women in this state that do it for a living every day of their lives, and a couple of guys. And you know, we're still doing the same things. We're making hardware and lights and cooking utensils and artwork and gates and railings, and it just depends on what the customer's willing to pay for. And in my neighborhood, that's the hard part sometimes, is the cost. And it makes them a little gun shy.
Yeah.
You look at a railing, the cost for me to hand forge a railing and put it together, it's going to be a lot higher than going to Lowe's.
Oh, definitely, compared to mass production to handmade.
It should live for it.
So, now if I may interrupt your assistance here, what are we currently working on here in this shop?
Well, I'm currently working on learning how to make a fork.
Not quite as fancy as this one.
This is as far as I've gotten so far.
And this is going to be a fork?
Yep,
Yep.
it's going to be exactly, or close to the same design
Okay.
as that one. Might not be as fancy, but
Now, as far as I see you just have fire and a flame there, is there any certain type of coals or woods that you use or prefer over others in a forge?
I'll pick that one up. This is a bituminous coal, which is what Illinois has, but this comes out of Pennsylvania. It's a soft, high carbon, low sulfur coal, so it's a metallurgical coal. We burn the impurities out of the coal as we're working, turn it into coke, and we're working into coke. That's when this fire hit 3,000 degrees with the coke. Hardwood charcoal works as well. Most of Europe's forged in charcoal for centuries until they ran out of trees. And then, go figure. I was fueling the metalworking industries. Even here when they're making iron, they're cutting trees and making charcoal to smelt iron with in the 17 and 1800s. Preferably a really good metallurgical coal with fewer impurities in it. The hard coal doesn't work very well. It doesn't coke. I suppose if it was all you had, you could get away with it, but
Now,
it's a lot of fun to work in.
I've heard you use the term coat or coke concerning the coals itself. What does that term mean?
Coke? Let's find a chunk.
I'll find a bigger one.
This is a piece of coal. This is relatively hard and black.
Okay.
This is a piece of coke. This is lightweight. It's feels like a piece of charcoal.
Yes.
Looks kind of like charcoal and burns a lot like charcoal. And it just burns really, really hot and really pretty clean. Most of the smoke you see coming off the fire right now is from the coal starting to coke down.
Okay.
Once you have the coke, I mean, we could sit out here. Some places like in Indonesia and stuff, if they're using coal, the only way they'll use it if somebody burns it first, turns it into coke. They much prefer hardwood charcoal.
Okay. Well, sir, I appreciate your time.
Anytime.
Thank you for speaking with us. And other than that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and don't work too hard.
Oh, we've got to work hard. It's our job.
Well, this is Lost Dogs. Once again, thank you. You have been recorded on Lost Dogs World, and we hope the best for all of you.
Thank you.